Hi everybody, I'm truly honored here to be with Supervisor Kim in the city of San Francisco. I first have to start off by saying thank you. I found out yesterday that you actually went and slept in a homeless shelter. Mm-hmm. And that is just amazing for somebody in your position to go and do that. Can you tell me why you would do something like that and what the experience, how it changed you?
Sure. You know, homelessness has always been one of our priority issues for our office. And it's something that I really committed to in my first year, was to really figure out how we can bring more resources to folks that need it the most, whether it's our resource centers or shelters, and of course, affordable housing, so folks can eventually get housed. One of the commitments I made was to actually spend a day trying to get into our shelter system so that I could experience myself, because one of the reforms that people really wanted to see was a way that they could prevent the kind of making their jobs waiting in line, which is what most of our folks who are homeless do. I mean, they literally spend from 3 a.m. to any time late through the night. They can spend the entire day just waiting in line for services or a bed. So in January, when the mayor actually appointed me to be interim mayor while he was out of town, our office thought about it, and we thought, what better way to spend my first night as mayor than to sleep at one of our city shelters. And so I actually went through the whole reservation policy process. I went to a drop-in center, I got a number, and I got a bed actually here in our district at next door shelter, and I got to spend a night there.
What was the experience like?
You know, I knew it was going to be hard, but it wasn't hard for the reasons that I thought it would be. It's hard. You're seeing folks at a time when they're most in need. And when I was there, I got to talk to a lot of folks that were in the shelter system and kind of learn a little bit about how they ended up in that system. But actually what was challenging for me was actually just kind of containing my emotions, because what I found in the shelter was an incredible amount of kindness and generosity. People really look out for each other in the shelters. And it's not to say there aren't people that are angry. Right. There's all kinds of emotions in shelters, but there's also a community that exists, and everyone knows they're in the same situation. And people are there to help each other. People were there to help me. They were giving me advice on the best places to go to, how to wait online.
They knew you were a first-timer.
They knew I was a first-timer. They told me how to get food. I mean, people were bringing me juice. People were taking my trays away. I mean, everyone was trying to help me out on my first night.
But they didn't know you were mayor. You were incognito?
You know, I didn't hide who I was.
Right.
If someone asked me, I would tell them. But, most people didn't ask. Because everybody there knows that you could be homeless for any number of reasons. And they've seen it all. Right. So actually, they didn't question me being there at all. Yeah. For the most part.
I so honor you for that, because I've tried to get other people in your similar positions to sleep out on Skid Row and to really experience. But one thing you said that I noticed yesterday in the meeting that I was in with you, and that you understand that the bureaucracy of just getting into the system, we don't make it easy for people to get out of homelessness. You know, the amount of energy and time that they have to, and people say, oh, they can get a job or they can go to a shelter, and it's not that easy. No. And we need to reduce that.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, the system that we've set up for people that are most in need. And we basically set it up so that folks have to kind of work for everything that they get. Yeah. So they can't actually spend the time to get a job or to put themselves back on their feet. And what ends up happening is that you're in that system and you eventually dive into a very deep depression. Right? I mean, first of all, it's a horrible place to be for a long period of time. But second, you start to kind of lose faith in your own capacity.
It's learned helplessness. I've been lucky to travel all over and I interview all kinds of homeless people. And, people say, well, I want to be homeless. And then I'll ask, well, when you're first homeless, did you try to get out? And they'll say, yeah. They just gave up. Yeah. After hitting that wall of bureaucracy, they just say, gosh, I'm just going to live in the park, or I'm going to live here, and it's just a horrible situation. Yesterday we were in a meeting about family homelessness, and I agree with you so much. Oh my gosh, I just wanted to, I know it wasn't the proper place, but I just wanted to yell and scream, and I mean, you're just saying everything you said resonated with me.
Oh, thank you.
so very much, because if you don't know, they're currently here is they're trying to establish a residency for homeless families. And it's really, let's get to work on housing people.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, when we just talked about how we're making it difficult, we need it easier for people to get the services.
It's already difficult for homeless families.
Right.
And the new proposed policy is to make it more challenging to get on the list so that they can reduce the number of families on the waiting list. You know, on one level that might make sense, right?
Yeah.
But on the other level, you're like, well, actually the problem is there aren't enough units.
Right.
To house all of these families, 152 families that are currently on the list. That's the actual problem. Yeah, but you know, going back to your other question, the other thing that surprised me about staying at the shelter was how old most of the clients there were.
Yeah.
And so I expected there to be a lot of young folks. Actually, a lot of folks in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s that are aging in homelessness.
We have a very serious problem. I call it the Silver Tsunami coming, because the boomers are just hitting 65 and like 10,000 people, you know, the largest generation so far. And they're hitting the senior years, and they've lost their 401k, their house, their savings. There's no health care. They're going to tax social services. It's a very serious problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people, you come to San Francisco, and you, just like most major cities, San Francisco is no different in this particular area, but you see homelessness. It's very visible in some areas, and I think that's, your district is the Tenderloin. I love the Tenderloin, by the way.
I do too.
And
it's my favorite neighborhood in the city.
I agree. I totally agree. And what is now being done to end homelessness, alleviate some of the panhandling and different things?
You know, so it's a really tough issue.
It's complex.
It's very complex. You said it. Some of the work that we've been doing, obviously, is reforming the shelter reservation process, what I mentioned to you. So one of the issues is that it's tough to get out of homelessness if you're constantly in line. So we're trying to reduce that. So we've been working with Bevan Dufty's office on homelessness to really figure out some real solutions around that. The other issue is transportation. How do folks get around if they don't have money? How can we use our MAP van system to help folks get around to different shelters and different resource centers so they're not spending their whole day walking back and forth between all the different places that they need to go. So that's one aspect. The second is we're in the budget process right now. You saw those folks lining up outside of chambers. A big part of the work is also investing in housing units. So one of our major asks is to improve the quality of our shelter system. So we have folks that are qualified to counsel folks out of shelters. The second thing is to increase rental subsidies program. So for folks that are about to lose their homes, to keep them in their current unit to subsidize their rent. Or B, because San Francisco is such an expensive place to live, give them rental subsidies so they can afford to live here or in the Bay Area.
How do people local support you? I mean, because I do believe people want to see change. So how do they support your great work?
You know, there are a lot of different ways. I mean, you know, folks are really frustrated by homelessness, and I try to get them to be a part of the solution as well, instead of just to complain about it. And there's so many amazing organizations like Community Housing Partnership and Hospitality House, Mission Resource, MNRC, Mission Neighborhood Resource Center, and just getting folks to support those organizations, because they're doing the work. They're actually alleviating homelessness one person at a time, and getting them to support those organizations is incredibly important. But also thinking about homelessness with compassion. Folks, you know, may seem like they choose to be there, that this is a lifestyle that they've chosen, but it's exactly what you said. There was a pathway that took to get them there.
Well, thank you very much. I don't want to take up any more of your day. And again, thank you for caring so much about people who really have such little influence. You're definitely advocating in a very strong way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.